All right, Zig coming in on the top 10 of the show. We have Alex Hall from Alex Hall's Figurehead. This is my second conversation with Alex. It's been a minute since we've caught up with him, about 5 years, which is kind of crazy to think that I've been doing these podcasts pretty consistently for 5 years. It really hasn't felt like that, but here we are, and there's been a lot of cool opportunities and people I've met from doing this, so it's pretty awesome, and I'm glad to still be able to be having these conversations and sharing them with you all. Anywho, Alex is on the show. He has a new EP out called Ledgewood. It dips into the singer-songwriter prog rock realm, and it's really good. I recommend you guys check it out. It's available on all the streaming platforms. It's just as good, I think, as his last record, Johnny, which was this crazy concept record. And if you have yet to hear that one, go check that out as well. And with our previous conversation, we dive more into Alex's history. And in this conversation, we stay pretty focused on this EP and what's happened from the previous 5 years that we have had in between our first talk and this one. And it's been a rough go. There's been a lot that's happened with Alex in his life and a lot of change and the beauty is this amazing EP he's put out and the amazing record he's going to put out next, I'm sure. But the struggle's there, and I think these conversations are important for everyone to hear, to know that if you're going through something rough, it can lead to something moving and inspired. Anywho. If you like what you hear, if you can rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, any of the podcast platforms, it helps me keep talking to cool guests like Alex and sharing their insight with you. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Alex Hall.
That's funny. Actually, I went back and listened to our last conversation, and I'm pretty sure it started with us talking about cats. So
well, I think we gotta start it again with more cats. What's going on? What's our cat update, man?
I have Helmet right here next to me. He's named after Dark Helmet from Spaceballs.
Sick.
His brother is named Vader.
Okay.
And honestly, had I known their personalities better at the time, I would have swapped their names. But it's kind of cool because they're misnomers,
So in the sense that it's kind of funny because so my cat, I have two cats, Noodle and Shug, and they were both kind of arbitrarily named. My mom named Shug. And they kind of lived up to their personalities. My cat Noodle just limps like a noodle. He'll hang off the ledge and just kind of melt off it until he falls off. You know what I mean? And Shug is just one of the sweetest kittens in the world. He comes up and just nuzzles whoever's here because everything in the world's here for him. So
yeah, Helmet's very he gets very attached to specific people, and kind of like if strangers come over, he's out of sight. You will not see him. But his brother Vader is I created an Instagram profile for him because he's just ridiculous. He sits real funny. We call it Vade sitting. He sits up on his hind and on his butt and kind of just slumps forward. And he does it a lot. It wasn't at first we thought, oh, he's in the middle of cleaning himself, and then he just kind of sat up and stayed like that. But no, he does it all the time. So there's a bunch of funny videos. I'll send you a link to his
please
file.
Yes. No, I'll subscribe. I'll follow his Instagram.
he actually will I think kind of what you were saying, he'll lay on a ledge or whatever, and his all his legs will be hanging off the ledge. He's not one of those cats that curls up. I mean, he really just kind of his arms are hanging out. He just sort of a cat just got spat onto the ground. It's funny.
It's funny how sometimes the names work and sometimes how they're the opposite. And the one thing to touch upon, one thing that drives me crazy. So we me and my girlfriend, we just moved into this apartment, and for my cats, it's a big shift. It's a big change. They got there's way more room for them. They're super skittish about it because they're slowly getting used to having this space. And when we moved in, she had a cat too, who recently passed, and before we even got a chance to introduce him, and which I don't know, maybe because she was I don't know what it is with female cats, a little more territorial, but she was not afraid of anything. She would explore everywhere, and they're ruler of the roost in the But so now they're super like skittish about stuff because they have all this room to like explore, and it's like freaking them out. And like I hate it because like I'm so used to them just being like, "Oh, you're here," and it's just like comfortable, like cuddle time. You know, they're just stoked anyone's here to witness them be awesome. And like when they're skittish, it's like you get that experience of how great like this cat is, and just like you want others to kind of know it, but you know what I mean, you can't because they're cat scared. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of a bummer. Like you have this beautiful experience and you can't share it, but I guess that's okay too.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, we have two new cats also. Like we got a couple of kittens like not even a year ago. Like we got them, and one of them is a girl. She's the only girl cat we have in the house. So there's a total of four. And she's initially like we thought, oh man, she's very like skittish and like, you know, weird and whatever. And like it even got to the point where she was like going outside the box, and we're like, we got to get this handled. And the vet was like, you can actually give him Prozac. And at first I'm like, Jesus
What?
Christ, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess it's actually really common. And so I was like, all right, well, if it works, it works. And so we started doing it. And I mean, I would say for, you know, a month or actually maybe like 2 or 3 months, like we're giving this cat Prozac. I mean, whether it's like a little like treat, which of course she would like spit the part that was the pill out, or liquid that we're like having to like use a liquid syringe to like squirt it into her mouth or whatever it was, just like given to her. And then I think what I figured out was that the litter box thing was happening because because basically the litter box wasn't being cleaned often enough. I mean, we went from 2 to 4 cats, so I think we just didn't realize, like, you know, she's a little princess and she needs, you know, a clean box, you know. So when I kind of figured that out, I was like, all right, I know now what's going on with that. And I was like, let's try taking her off the medicine and see what happens. And she did kind of come back out of her shell. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So I didn't have to give her the medicine anymore. But we have another cat that we got at the same time. It was like this big orange fluff ball. He's like, he's still, I mean, it's been months. And he's still like, I can't even touch him. Like if I come near him, he's fucking gone.
Damn.
Yeah, it sucks because like I get mad. I'm just like, fuck that cat, you know. But
Yeah.
but I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
I take care of him and stuff. Don't
Of
get me
course,
wrong.
no, I
but,
know
like,
what you mean, but you're just like, you're adorable. I want to love you. Why do you, why am I terrifying?
right.
Yeah. It's so frustrating, but also the best at the same time when it works out. Like last night, I camped out on the couch and I had them like, they've slowly been moving from couch to couch with me, and like almost like our old place, our usual night routine kind of happened again, because they both like kind of just like sleep in between my legs. It's weird. Like
Mine do that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And it's like it's weird. It's uncomfortable after like an hour or two, but it's also the best. And like, so that was the first time. And then I dropped the remote, and they're like, "Fuck you!" And they scattered like
Mhm.
like a bomb went off. But we live in these
That's
like
funny.
apartments in Little Italy, and like last night they were just like, basically I'm by a bunch of music students, which is awesome. I like
Mhm.
worked super hard to soundproof this apartment so I can scream into the void, and everyone else is practicing violin with their fucking windows open. I'm like, all right, I guess we don't give a fuck. But
That's
last night
funny.
they were having a party like in this little alleyway, and like they're loud as fuck, and the cats didn't give a shit about that. But I drop a remote, whatever.
That's funny.
But anywho, man, like what's been going on musically? Where it's, like this EP sounds fucking incredible, man. I'm
Oh,
really
good. I'm glad you like it.
yeah. Like at first I was kind of the Dropbox thing was kind of like throwing me. I'm like, fuck, how do I? Because I've always just had like issues with Dropbox. I'm like, fuck, but it added. I got it to work, and like I think like this new phase, like at least these recent phase of like records that you've been, or yeah, records. I'm gonna call it records that you've been putting out, like with like this kind of long concept, and like I mean, it's like clearly a lot of work and a lot of like attention to detail, but like I think it's like fucking awesome, man. Like I got some like Pink Floyd, Foo Fighter vibes off this new one. Um,
Okay.
But walking into it, like with Ledgewood, like I guess kind of going off the last kind of concept record, I can't remember if we talked about some of this because I know I asked you what was coming next last time, but does it, I guess as far as a departure from the last record to this EP, is it a continuation, a side story of such, or completely different narrative?
Well, this one, I don't even really think of this one as a concept album. I mean, it has some themes that kind of intertwine, and like there's this notion that I put in the descriptions that I've sent out to people and stuff, that like the reprise of the introduction to the song Useless comes back in the end. And the reason for that is, at least conceptually, is just this idea that like where the song Useless ends with this like positive affirmation, having that dark intro kind of come back as an outro is kind of just like, the darkness is still there, always ready to poke back out, when you get cocky or whatever. But I guess that was kind of what was going on as far as those two tracks. But the other tracks really are concepts in and of themselves. And like Johnny did have this very specific concept running through it about this friend of mine who had kind of withered away into nothing and then passed away. And, I was really depressing everybody with my work.
But I mean, like, not to denounce it, but sometimes it's all right to look in, because that's what it was. And that's what made that project so beautiful. It was about this guy and this whole process of what happened, but sorry, I cut you off.
No, not at all. So I mean, with this record, like, I'm calling it an EP because it's really 3 tracks plus like an outro. So like my life has kind of been turned upside down. The last time I talked to you, I was living in Cuyahoga Falls, in a 100-year-old house, with a wife and 2 kids who were, probably about to start kindergarten. Now here 5 years later, almost to I don't know when we actually talked, but the album, Johnny, came out on Black Friday 2020, and here we are, about Halloween 2025. Right. So it's been 5 years, yeah. And one thing I want to say, just as an aside, is like I've been keeping up, with you and like watching what you're doing. And I mean, you've had some just incredible guests. And I really love how you can go from like, having Paul Reed Smith to having the whiskey drinks like on the same show. I think it's really fucking cool that you like want to, talk to anybody anywhere about what they're doing and have these internationally renowned people side by side with like Cleveland local. So good on you, first of all.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I tried to, I think everyone's got that story that matters. So like, and especially when they're homies too, it's even better. So thank you.
For real. Yeah, for real. And so like, in the time that's passed, basically like I live in Cincinnati now. I'm originally from Cincinnati, like the Cincinnati area. And, like my life kind of got turned upside down after Johnny came out. I mean, that came out during COVID. So, I mean, everybody's life was turned upside down, but like things went sideways for me in pretty dramatic ways. And so like, I guess I just had a lot going on in my head, and there were certain like concepts in these songs that were, I guess, part and parcel of like how I was feeling, but also just songs that I had written that I really liked and thought, man, I need to like, it's been too long. Like I need to put something out, and like, here are these tunes that I really feel proud of. And like, I should flesh these out and like, just get something out so that the next thing can kind of be moving forward. And so, I demoed out, okay, the title Ledgewood, I went to a place in, Garrettsville called the Ledgewood. I mean, it's an old like pool house that these people, converted into like a little like cabin. And and it's a really cool spot. It's like an Airbnb, like anybody could go there if they want to. Um, and you know, my idea was I'm just gonna go with like a cooler full of like beer and pop and soda, and or I guess pop and soda are the same thing. You know, with a cooler full of beer and water and whatever, and just you know, be by myself and like just make myself be in like an artistic state and like have something to show for it, you know.
Yeah.
So I did. I went like for 2 nights out there. I like drove after work on like a Friday and then drove back on a Sunday. And I had brought everything: guitars, keyboards, computers, just anything I thought might be useful. And you know how like when you open your phone to like answer a text message, but you end up on Instagram or
Yes.
something, and
Oh
then
my
you
God.
forget why you answer. Yeah. What I didn't want was for that to happen, you know, and for me to like leave there going like, well, I wrote some lyrics, but that's it. So I made myself like, you know, concentrate on the music. I would step outside, appreciate the scenery, be in the woods, whatever. But then I would go back inside and I would pick up that guitar. I would put my fingers on that keyboard, and, you know, and what came out of it was the tune Flood. And it was very different at that time. I kind of went back and reworked it in terms of like the instrumentation and stuff, which I'm glad I did, because I had never like I have never had a song on an album that had like a synth, you know. But that tune opens very clearly with like this sort of, it sounds sequenced, but it's actually not. It's like it's me on a like MIDI, you know, grid, putting in the notes and then syncing them up with what do you call that? The word is the quantizing. I was like quantizing the notes to like make everything, and then going back and putting the harmonized notes on top or underneath or whatever until
It's
I got
tedious.
it to sound the way
It's
it
tedious.
is.
Yeah.
It really is. But it was cool, and I was like, you know, this is a really like neat little thing, and it works in the chord structure that I had originally sort of envisioned for the song. And I was like, what if it just opened with that and I just sang over it, you know? And so that's what I did. And then when like it comes in, it works really well. And if you listen to the beginning of the song and then play the end of the song, you'll realize, oh, each verse like is changing key. And that was because the turnaround to or from the, I think the chorus, or no, the turnaround from the verse to the chorus was like messing with me every time. I can't explain musically, because I didn't go to music school or anything like that, why it didn't work for me. But every time I went from the verse to the chorus, it just sounded wrong if I didn't change the key. So I kept doing it. And I think at the end, it actually circles back to where it begins, but don't quote me on that. So anyway, then I'm like thinking like, you know, what are the lyrics? And I did write the lyrics while I was out there. And it was just kind of this idea of like being on the verge of like falling apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that could mean, I guess, take that the way you want to take it. So like, this is one of those tunes that I wrote that was like abstract, the way that my songs used to be. And I kind of liked that, you know? So, you know, here I had this tune, it was done. I left the Ledgewood Lodge in Garrettsville and went home. And, you know, again, like I went through a whole bunch of crazy things in my life. Basically, I had ended up getting divorced. And like my ex-wife had some problems of her own. And then after a lot of things had kind of settled down, and we were kind of like getting into the groove of like co-parenting and like, you know, still really getting along really well, and being friends, even though we weren't like partners in that way anymore, she like suddenly fell ill. And it was just one of those crazy things where she had suddenly, you know, found out that she had a terminal illness.
Oh my God.
That
Yeah.
2 weeks later, she was gone.
Holy shit.
Um, so it was just a crazy, like I like had left a job to start a new job, like, and actually that's apropos of like the lyrics to the song "Useless," which I can talk about in a second. But
Yeah, I've got
I had
questions
left,
about that. So put a pin in there.
yeah, yeah. So I had left this job to go take a job teaching ELA to seventh graders at an inner city school in Akron because I just wanted to get back into teaching, and I had been working on getting like an alternative licensure so that I could like be, a public school teacher because I taught college for like 13 years. Um, so when she got ill, and because the Akron public school system failed to give me the information that I needed about how long it was going to take for me to get like, approved and all that stuff, which I ultimately did, but it took way longer than they said. And I had like left this job as a favor to them so that I would be there at the start of the year. Basically, like I didn't get like officially added to the payroll and stuff. And so I'm sitting outside the board office to go in and find out like, am I going to keep working here for free or not, basically.
Yeah.
When I get a phone call
Yeah.
telling me that like my ex-wife has got, brain cancer. And so I was
Christ.
like, yeah, so I'm already a mess. And I go
Yeah.
in there and they tell me that, yeah, I can't, that I can't get on the payroll yet. And I said, well, I can't continue working for free either. So I just dropped everything and went and sat in a hospital every day for 2 weeks to help this woman through,
Oh my God, man.
what she went through. And I felt like I needed to be. We have twin daughters who are now in the fifth grade, 10-year-olds, and I felt like I needed to be there as like to bear witness for them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I mean, even though we were divorced, like I think her family, I think they appreciated having me there. I think they still felt, thought of me as family. And so, she died, I think on a Saturday. And her memorial was like the following Wednesday. And the next day I started as a building substitute in an elementary school in Cuyahoga Falls, where, by the way, I had been on the school board just like a year before. And so this principal had taken a chance on me and like, said like, I don't care what his background is, like he's going to be a good teacher. And so that really changed a lot for me. And I loved working in an elementary school. So, so I went from having like a desk job in a county office in Summit County to being a teacher again. Yeah, I mean, everything was different, suddenly I was like a single dad. I was in an apartment in the Falls. I was, working in an elementary school instead of like sitting behind a desk. It was just, things were a lot different. And I was able to get together a couple of friends. You'll remember that I was in Oliver Hall, which was a jam band out of Akron that, we toured extensively in the United States, and it was a great time. And people can go back to our previous conversation to hear all about that. But I was able to get the drummer from Oliver Hall, Lance Ballard, who had moved to Cuyahoga Falls, to come around and hang and play. And a good friend of mine, Tom Zocalo, who I knew from the early Oliver Hall days while he was still a student at Kent State, became a great bass player and actually plays guitar now in a band called the Cabin Sound out of Akron. Really cool guys. And so they were coming over on a regular basis, and we were kind of jamming. And that was when I wrote the chords for Useless, and kind of brought those around. And then Straw was already kind of like, you're a musician, you know how it is. You got tunes kind of like
you
just
pile them up. Yeah.
yeah, they're in your brain. Maybe you hum the melody into your phone or something. So I just was like, I got to get these out. I got to get them. You'll understand what I mean. And musicians who are listening to this will understand what I mean. Artists will understand what I mean. I had to get them out of my system, I needed them done so that I could cosmically, psychically, however you want to think about it, move on to the next thing. And with everything that had happened, I think maybe it was also sort of a catharsis, for me to be able to do that. So I went to Amprion Recorder in Youngstown. Pete Revere is just an amazing sound engineer, producer, just fantastic dude. And he had recorded Johnny. And so I went to him and I laid down the drums with a different drummer actually than what's on there now, and a whole bunch of guitars and other stuff. And then he actually closed his doors. I think moved to a new location. So I was his last client in his 30-year location.
Damn. That's kind of it's kind of a cool little cliff note. You know what I mean? Because it's special for him, as well as But anyway, sorry.
Totally, yeah. I mean, I'm really proud of that because I think that place is just storied, and the people who know. But then I decided that there was really no particularly meaningful connection for me to Northeast Ohio anymore. At least not. That's not true. I shouldn't say it that way because it is meaningful and it continues to be meaningful. But there wasn't the kind of connection that I had with my kid's mom, being there. And because I was from Cincinnati, I was just like, you know what, maybe I just need to go. So I finished up what I could finish up with Pete. And then I left him with a hard drive and said, mail this to me when you've got everything, on it for me to bring to the next guy. So I moved to Cincinnati, East Side, and I started down here with a guy named Eric Kronstein at the Tone Shop, which is a really cool place in an old church, and finished it up here. Kind of decided along the way that I wanted to change out the drums. And Cincinnati was where I started. My first real band that actually traveled outside of the city and got paying gigs and had a festival and all that stuff was here. And the drummer in that band is I've known him since high school, and he's an amazing drummer. One of these guys who grew up in church and can just play anything.
Oh yeah, I can just rip it. Yeah, I got the gospel chops. Okay.
Yes. And so I called him up and I was like, dude, this stuff was all played to a click, so I don't see any reason you couldn't just drop in new drums. So let's try it. And he just killed it. It's
they do sound
it's
great. Yeah.
The playing and the production alike, just really fantastic. And then my friend Tim Wilderoder, who was in Alex Hall's Figurehead, the live band, which was around, I think, starting in about 2014, based mostly in Youngstown. He's continued to deliver bass parts for me on stuff. He was on the Johnny record. He's on this record. I think of him as a co-producer because when I've got a tune and I'm not sure, what I think, I'll send it to him and be like, hey, tell me, give me your notes.
Those relationships are so quintessential to this whole process. You know what I mean? Because it's so easy to kind of get stuck and fuck, I need someone to you need that outside voice to be it's fine, just do that progression again, or new part here, little things like that, because if not, it just hangs out in that space with I'll figure it out eventually. You know what I mean? And then it gets on to the next thing that's in your head. So I understand that relationship, and that's cool that you guys have that.
Well, and actually, when I was still living in Northeast Ohio, he and I had decided, because he lives in central Pennsylvania, we had decided to meet up in whatever the halfway point was and just get an Airbnb and just sit there, kind of like I did when I wrote Flood in Garrettsville, and see what would come of it. And so his bass was actually on the demo for one of the tunes. And it might have been Flood. It might have been something else. I can't remember exactly right now, but so he was kind of involved with some of the writing process, but then absolutely he's the guy, like you say, having that relationship that I go to when I need I'm pretty stingy about the writing itself. I want to feel like it's done. And I really want to hear more what somebody thinks is too much or missing. So like you're saying, like, oh, you could take 2 bars out of these 4, or you need one little thing right here to like fill that space, or you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. Um, but he's also somebody that in the past I've said, hey, I've got this tune. There's these 2 parts. I don't know how to link them together. Have at it. And he would write something and it would end up being, and so that's some of the stuff that was like on the Carrion record. There's 2 tunes on there that I think of as being like attached to whatever my, you know, what Frank Zappa called conceptual continuity is now. And those 2 tracks are Carrion and Marquee. And if you listen to those 2 songs and then listen to Johnny and then listen to Ledgewood, you'll go, oh, okay, yeah, those belong together. Versus some of the other tunes, which I still love, that just really aren't stylistically what I'm doing these days. And so Tim had contributed stuff to both Carrion and Marquee, like as a writer. And now he tends to be kind of like my sounding board, like I just respect his opinion. And there are other guys like that I would love to work with in that way. But you probably, excuse me, you probably have like had this happen too, where, you know, there is somebody that you would really like to get their opinion and they'll say, yeah, I'll do it. And you say, cool. And you send them the stuff and then it just never like happens.
It just, it sits in the email and never sees the light of day and no one says anything and no one wants to offend anybody or push anybody.
Right.
So, yep.
So there are those guys too. And I mean, and it's whatever. I mean, you know, these are like, I think your listeners are going to hear like, oh, these are commonalities with musicians. Cause like,
it's a trend and it happens.
Right. So anyway, Tim was, I think of him as a co-producer, because of that. And then, with 4 Ohms, the band that was based in Cincinnati, that was like my first real band, down here that band started in 99 and went to 2004. I was 19, you know, when we started. And I am 45 years old now. So, anyway, at one point we'd shifted around some members. We had, replaced, one bass player with another bass player, and that's a guy named Kevin Cooper. And Kevin Cooper is now like Cincinnati's go-to, like, party guy for like a live band situation.
Okay.
So he'll Kevin. Like every night of the week, he's like at some place, he's doing like one man karaoke, or he's got a little 3-piece doing covers, or he's in some bigger thing doing this or that, playing a wedding, playing a whatever. He's getting it, you know? And so he can play anything. And I was like, hey man, why don't you come and put down the organs on this stuff? And so he did. So all the organ you hear is Kevin. Again, longtime friend. I mean, was playing with me in 4 Ohms back in 2002. When that band broke up, we had another band together where he played bass. And so just in a lot of ways, this is an EP that just has these people on it that are kind of like just always kind of been in my musical universe, you know.
Well, it kind of goes with that continuity of conceptual, you know, where you're at. So just with players as well. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out. Just like, but anyway, so
no. So yeah, I mean, that's like how it came together. I mean, really, playing like I have an electronic drum set, and so I'm thinking back to like being in Cuyahoga Falls with like Lance Ballard playing the electronic drum kit, and me and Tom and all of us with headphones on, and like how silly it must have sounded if somebody had been standing in the room, you know, because there's like no amps, no drum sounds. Like to us, it sounded like we're in a stadium, but like, you know, and we're fleshing out these tunes. And I remember Useless being a tune where like Tom was saying like, hey man, this is a really good tune. You need to do something with this. And so, yeah, I started fiddling with it, and it ended up what you hear now. I'm in love with the intro. I really like how that turned out.
That track definitely is like it's a great, where you have it as the first track on this EP is the spot it needs to be. It's a good, like everything. It's a good fucking track. So I was gonna say it's like, and I want to. So okay, with the concept of that, like the going back to what you pointed out, how there's like this bitter twist of like of the term useless, and like in the initial like statement of it, I'm like, what are we trying to say here? But then it ends up on this kind of positive twist of it, and like it brings us light to this uselessness in a sense. So like I gotta want to dive into that, like like conceptually.
Sure. So like as I mentioned, I was working for the county after COVID. Like I got a couple of desk jobs working for like working in county positions, and like started kind of like being in that like world of like, oh, like I'm a professional, like I need a LinkedIn page and like a headshot and shit, you know. And I was just like I felt so fucking lame, dude. And like yet like I was like seeing all these other people, and there was this really common phrase where people would say, I'm thrilled to announce, and they would say this on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever the fuck, you know, I'm thrilled to announce that I'm, and I always, my joke is like, I'm thrilled to announce that I'm the operations logistics service liaison to the second vice, you know, whatever district regional, some shit, you know,
Just, yeah.
And I just like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, because my experience was that those people who had those jobs, who like painted this picture for people on a quote unquote professional social media platform, what they were actually doing on a day-to-day basis was sitting in front of a computer screen, like pretending to be busy. Now, I don't want to denigrate anybody who has a job like that they love. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who have jobs that sound like what I just described, where what they're doing actually is, you know, productive and useful and not boring at all. But my experience when I would talk to anybody was that they were kind of like sitting in front of a computer screen, like trying to be busy doing something, you know, but that they were never really busy all the time. And I had a really difficult time with that. Like, how the fuck am I going to sit here and like pretend to be busy, and like the work that I'm doing when I am quote unquote busy be so fucking meaningless, you know? Like running social media, designing like a flyer, or like, I mean, and I know that people do more meaningful shit than what I was doing. So my experience is just that. It's my experience, but it just felt so like meaningless and useless. So it's sarcasm. Like the song is sarcasm. I'm thrilled to announce that I'm useless. I'm thrilled to announce that I am now in a situation where I'm doing something that has zero impact on anyone or anything. You know what I mean, it's tongue in cheek and apathetic, I suppose. But you know, it's my art. I'll say what I want to say.
But that's, I think. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that's
interject.
like with like statements like that, at that kind of like there's a space to kind of think about it in that sense. So yes, it is like that. It is that kind of snarkyism to it, knowing where it's coming from, but without that kind of like position of where it's coming from, it's kind of like, whoa, what? Then there's for when I was listening to it, I'm like, wait. I kind of went down this like idea of like, well, what the thrill of having like an idea of being useless in a sense, to being kind of exposed to the whatever the wave of whatever takes you, and like the fluidness of that. I'm like, I guess I can see how that can be deep. You know what I mean? Like I'm with this. Okay. Like with the initial like run of thought when you hear just like the phrase, but like
that's an astute reading of it. Honestly, like that's what's so great about poetry too, right? Is that you can extract whatever meaning you want from it. I sort of was worried that people would hear that and think I was like writing a suicide note or something, you know, which was really not at all what I was going for. Although I suppose I was in a dark place, as I just explained to you what happened with everything.
Yeah, with the context of that, for sure. Like,
yeah. but I mean, it really just was more like me kind of like rolling my eyes, in a certain way. And as I mentioned, like, um, I do say like at the end, that I'm kind of like musing something that I know isn't really true, that I know that like, I have accomplished a lot, whether I'm talking about myself or the character speaking through the lyrics, that there is a lot to sort of be like proud of and a lot of like accomplishments and stuff. And I think that's true for me. And I think that's true for anybody who would be listening. And hopefully they would like see that in the end, like, and not like, like listening to some Black Sabbath record and just see the word suicide solution and be like, oh, like, I mean, it's there is like some depth to it, I think, that I put there intentionally, and as you pointed out, like that people could extract on their own as well. There is a bit in the tune that is like, I don't know why I can do this, and I think that's part of like me sort of expressing like the things that I can do, the things that I love to do and that I feel like I'm good at doing. Sometimes like when you don't have the chance to flex that muscle, you kind of feel like, well, why can I even do it? Like, why am I even able to do this thing that I can't even really do, and I think we all feel that way sometimes. Like, why can I make music if I can't, like sell out a stadium? Why can I paint beautiful pictures if I can't, sell one? Why can I, I don't know, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be so capitalistic, I guess. But like, does that make sense?
100%. Yeah, no, like, because it's like we live in a world where success that is socially accepted is kind of a capitalistic kind of like lens of that, right? Like, oh, you're a painter, cool. So is everyone. Like, unless you've sold something, oh wow, or like just even getting
Right.
a show. Like, oh, you're a painter with a show. Wow, cool. I'm not gonna go, but cool. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like, like, there's all this kind of twistedness to it, but it is because like, and it is when you find yourself having a thing you want to do and thing you enjoy doing and thing you like that really fulfills you, and being in those like how you're saying like useless positions, like when you said you're designing flyers and doing social media, I'm like, that's all the shitty part of music. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like that's,
Which ironically ended up being like sort of my resume for being able to get those jobs, was like all the self-taught like shit, like promotional shit that I had to do when I did have live bands that I wanted to like go and play shows and whatever, that's how I got those jobs. you know
yeah, but
I'm a communications professional by trade. No, did you go to college for that? No, I just like played in bands since I was 19, and like, I know how to do all that.
but it's true. It's true. That's a much more applique, like actually doing it and like dealing with a lot of people and a lot of different medias and platforms and like file sizes that you need to make sure all these boxes are checked. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like for you in that situation, you're doing all the work for the thing that you're doing the 90% of the musician gig that is not playing the music. Like 90% of it is not playing music. 10% is, the rest is everything else. And like,
Right.
so I totally pick up where this is coming from. Like, and like, you find yourself in front of like gigs where you're trying to fill the time to do it. And you're like, if you have like this kind of creative outlet, like you want to like utilize every moment to do something and get something out and just like hack away at the sculpture, reveal something, And I really admire your putting time aside to rent a spot and just be there and focus on that. Turn off any of the distraction and just dive into that, because it gets to be so hard. Like I tried just writing every day, and I do write every day for a little bit, but one text goes off in those 10 minutes and I'm like looking at this, I'm like, shit, there's 5 minutes gone. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. You've opened your phone to look at Instagram and found yourself
yeah,
like on,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Like the same analogy I was just mentioning
yes,
earlier. Yeah.
exactly. No, like I've when you brought that up, I'm like, yes, I've fallen into that rabbit hole of being in the morning. Like I said, at the time in the morning to write just a little, just keep in that mind frame, headset. I mean, but like, and there will be times where like we're promoting something for the band and I have to respond something right away. Then I text right away, but and then you check up on the thing he's talking about and you're like, oh my God, it's just a spiral of like distraction. Like even when it's aimed towards the thing you're doing, it still can be that car wreck of like somewhere you didn't want to be.
Right. Yeah, totally.
But
Yeah, so I think like with that tune, like it could get misconstrued, but like I'm really proud of like kind of how it came out in that way, and to be followed up by, well, and I mean you mentioned like going and spending the time to write. Like I mean I recommend every musician at any level do that, and I think that like big famous musicians have the ability to do that more than like people who are just starting out or people who never really garnered the audience that they did or whatever. But like it really is it's sort of freeing to be able to be in a situation where that's all you're doing, but it takes it takes discipline at the same time, and that was a long time ago. I was still living up there, and I mean it's been a long time. Like Flood was written long before the other two tracks were polished off. The other two tracks, Useless, came about pretty quick before I moved, which was about a year and a half ago maybe. And the other one, Straw, was in development like while I was playing with those guys in my living room in Cuyahoga Falls. And it was really just kind of like, I got this tune in 9, like, how am I going to make this work? But that can also be the fun part of writing, is like, for me, like, and I guess, I don't know, maybe you can tell me what you think. I have considered myself since before Johnny to be like some iteration of progressive rock. And inevitably when I like release new music, people say Pink Floyd, which I don't mind at all. Like I love Pink Floyd. Even now I'm writing new stuff, and like it makes me think of Pink Floyd stuff. Like there's this one tune I'm working on right now, and I keep hearing a solo that I'm going to play, and in my mind it melts right into something off Animals, and I'm like, no, that's them. Like don't is it too close? Do I need to like but the other side of it is like really wanting to flesh out chord structures. So like in the past, maybe I would like come up with a bridge, say, that was like one chord like progression that I just really liked and was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm just going to do this a bunch of times and solo over it. Or somebody in the band will solo over it, whatever. And now it's more like, oh, that's a really cool chord progression, but I need to like build on that. So whatever I did with those 3 chords, I now need to like flesh that out even into even more chords. And then on top of that, how can I make this just a little different by adding an extra beat or adding a couple extra beats or something like that, and the challenge there is really fun, because I think what I tend to end up with is stuff that people don't realize is odd, but it is. So Straw, when people hear it, I don't think they're going to think about it like, I can't dance to that, but there's 9 beats in each measure. So it's like, it is a little strange. So does that make me progressive rock? I don't know.
I mean,
but that's
yeah, it's to each their own what they like, everyone's going to hear what they heard before and try to connect those, like those neurons there. You know what I mean? They're going to it's just, there's a sense of comfort if you can kind of like put something in a category of something you're familiar with, then you can dive into. And like, I think we're all guilty of that as humans. And like, and that's fine. That's, you know, I mean, and especially if it's a compliment too. Like being compared to Pink Floyd, I think it's a great thing to be compared to. Um, and the progressive, like, if the idea of progression is like, you know, in the sense of making something that is expanding from a 4/4 time signature and like a kind of like into more of a modal train of thought or like an advanced kind of theoretical kind of approach, then yes, I would say it's progressive, you know, but that's only because if we agree that that's the goal in that sense. So like, I think it definitely, like these projects have definitely had that like tonality to some other progressive rock. So I mean, I think that's a safe way to say it. Like,
Yeah.
and like, but I don't know. I feel like there's more kind of a songwriting aspect to it too, which is a little different from some of the progressive rock that I kind of really am aware of. You know what I mean? Like songwriting is involved, and it's, you know, and like we kind of touched upon before, growing more out of the abstract kind of thought into like something that's kind of more of a like experience based like thing is like it's a different train of like it just verbiage and like imagery and stuff, and like, and it draws upon and connects in different ways, where like the abstract's kind of like open to like anyone's interpretation of it, and like the kind of experiential is you're setting up what you're trying to share.
Yeah.
But yeah, then kind of Straw, I didn't like, because I, you know, I listened to these tracks, I didn't, you know, have too much time to like dive into it like before, like with the last record, but I agree with what you said. Like, it didn't feel odd to me. Like, now that you point out it's a 9, I'm gonna go back and listen to it again and be like, yep, okay, I can count it out now, you know. But I think that's like, to some degree, that's a goal in a sense, is if it, in like an odd world like that, it's approachable in that sense, is like how you're gonna get the most people to relate to the message of the tune, and like, but also like appease the like the math brain, that the creative itch in that sense, you know.
Yeah. And I think that is a lot of it is like, well, I mean, now that I'm in like marketing hell for like a new album release, you know, it's like a lot of this is like thinking about like, you know, like, oh, how do I get, I don't know. I guess my goal is like I make music that I like, and I make it for a variety of reasons, you know. Um, and I know that there have to be people out there who will enjoy listening to this music as much as I enjoy making it. And that might sound like a cliche, but like that, like really, I think most of us, like that's what we want as musicians, is to have people who want to hear this music hear it, so that, you know, they can appreciate, you know, the effort that goes into it and whatever. But there is a self-indulgence, you know, like of, you know, using a strange time signature. I mean, Useless is in 3 or 6, depending on how you look at it. And it's not that odd, but I mean, it's certainly not like a 4/4, you know, stomper, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, 3
and
or 6 is pretty close. I would say that's accepted as common in a way, you know
Sure.
what I mean? But like,
Yeah, absolutely. But I think like that, actually Straw's a really good example of kind of how I think about like where I did something that was, I could have taken I could have gone, what am I trying to say? I could have taken the easy way out on, for instance, the little, I guess you could call it a chorus in that song. There's like this arpeggiated guitar thing happening almost as a chorus. Like there's no words, it's just this guitar. And when I first wrote that break, rhythmically, I was like, that's really cool. And so I almost was like, it doesn't really matter what's happening musically there, because the rhythm is so neat and I can just whatever. And then I was like, no, I got to move that chord around a bunch in that same rhythm to, like, you know, make that whatever that statement is. And it was just so much the better for it. And I'm like, I really enjoyed doing that. But it is interesting because I think, like, you know, there is a sense that people might like be expecting another concept album from me. I don't think of this as a concept album, but the songs do have sort of conceptual frameworks. And you're right, there is a songwriting aspect to it. When I was writing Johnny, a lot of those tunes started out with just me and piano. And Pete Revere was saying at the time, like, you know, a lot of these tunes have like a Jackson Browne kind of vibe. And at the time I thought, oh, that's just because it's a piano, you know. But when I like listened back to him, I kind of understood, oh, it's because it's songwritery. In fact, I had on the demo, you know, I just like use GarageBand, right? I have a MIDI keyboard plugged in and I just play the stuff and then I fix it if I fuck up, you know? And I remember that I like had hired a guy to come in and do some of the piano parts, thinking they're going to take what I did and play it more like a piano player would play it. And the guy that I hired didn't really live up to that. And I was kind of like at a loss. Like I didn't really know what to do. And Pete was like, well, just use what you have. And I was like, yeah, but it's so simple. He's like, yeah, but it sounds like a singer songwriter, you know? And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. It does, you know, and I really am just, that's one of those producer moments, you know, like I'm sure you've had these, right? Somebody says something and it just clicks and you're like, yeah, you're right. Why did I overthink that? You know?
Well, yeah,
So.
yeah, no, I totally get that. I totally get, and it's part of like, is the kind of expectations you set for yourself and the kind of like inner critical like monologue you like tell yourself is like, oh, it can't be a G chord. You know what I mean? It's got to be something more. We tend to add more furniture to our apartment of the song than that's probably needed, and I guess it really takes a floor planner to be like, you can't fit that couch in here. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever. Like, like, and like I think that's like those little moments though. You take it away and you realize like, oh, it could be just a groove. You know, I don't know. Like, but it only makes sense once you've reached that moment. You know. So like that, those are huge, minute takeaways, like minute to the rest of the world, but for like you in that songwriting experience, you're like, shit, yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's the KISS rule, right? The keep it simple, stupid rule.
right.
Like
We all learn it from the beginning, but we like, you know, like we get into things that are cool because they're cool. You know what I mean? Like I totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Was it shit? What was I gonna say on that? It'll come back. So like, and like I guess you know also kind of you touched upon like people are kind of expecting a concept. I mean, you really drove it home with the last one, and like I think it's cool that this one is like sonically. I feel like there's more of a concept. I feel like the tracks kind of connect together very well, and I think part of that in my mind is like because of the reprise at the end. Right? Like that there's kind of like another loaf of bread for this sandwich here, you know? Like there's a, you know, it kind of, it ends. It has like a self-referential, referential to itself. And like, I think with that, I think more people are going to be like, what's the concept behind this one? You know what I mean? Like more so than not, but like, I don't think that's a bad place to be. And like, I like that it isn't. I like that each song is for this one. That it's its own experience, and like I don't know, like kind of like with all these like changes you've been going through, like it makes sense in a way that because there's so many different changes, I don't think you can lump that as one big concept. You know, not that all these songs are you know directly referential to like something that's been going on, but just like these little moments and like being able to like appreciate and understand and be in these moments for what they are. I think like especially with what you've gone through, I'm sure like there's a lot of kind of that reflection. And like I'm super super sorry that all that happened, because that's fucking heavy as shit. And like you know, to your kiddos, like it's just, I lost my mom in 2022, so and it's rough then, so I can't imagine like at their age, you know, how that is. But I'm glad they have you, and like I'm glad that you guys are getting through all this and you're fucking making sick ass music, despite all of it, you know?
Yeah. There's a Cincinnati musician that I know from way back. His name was Jason Ludwig. He had a band called Nocta Luca for a little while. Last I heard, he was working in Austin. I don't know. Nocta Luca was spelled Noctaluca. They were a really cool band, and they were comprised of 3/4 of a band that my band that I mentioned from Cincinnati Forums had played with a bunch. And Jason was one of these like dudes who could like belt out a Jeff Buckley song, just beautiful voice. And I heard this interview with him where somebody said, "Why do you play music?" And he said, "Because I have to." And I just feel that so hard, you know. It's just the thing that I do that helps me kind of make sense of, I don't know, my life, the world, whatever it is. It is interesting that you say the thing about like the tunes coming together and them being self-referential, because it reminds me that the song Straw actually references the song Flood. There's a point where I say that the flood is shouting out Jinx, because it's something repeated, and you can look at those lyrics, and people who listen to this can look at those lyrics and figure out what was going on there. But it really is a way of kind of like processing stuff. And like, I think what's going to happen next is like, I'm going to have another record that's going to be, me processing all the shit that I explained to you early in our conversation that happened over these last couple of years. And I'm okay with that. I don't want every record to be like a sad thing. And I mean, sometimes I think like, I just need to I redesigned my guitar rig. It sounds really great. Like I got really nice gear, and like, maybe I just need to go to an open mic and like just play in like a jam band with a bunch of dudes, you know? And I do want to do that. Like, I mean, I would love to just do that, but like, it's hard to find the energy to like start a band fresh and be the cheerleader and do all the stuff like we were talking about earlier, booking the gigs and like putting up the Facebook page and like all the stuff. And also it changes so fast. Like I've learned that with this release, like what you did to promote a release in 2020 is not what you do in 2025.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And it's like, it's almost like a game like that I don't really want to play. Like,
yeah. I totally agree. Oh my God. It's a game I don't want to play, but I have to play, and I don't know how to play it anymore.
Right. But I sometimes I say to people like artists who I've played with or who I just know or whatever, I say a lot to these people, like, I want to hear your Dark Side of the Moon. Like, I want you to go in a studio and, you know, fuck the band, fuck the scene, fuck the gig, whatever. Just go into a studio and make your dark side, you know, whatever it looks like. I mean, obviously not everybody's going to make a record that sounds like Pink Floyd, right? But you can make your sort of your opus. And I want to hear that. I want to hear everybody's Dark Side of the Moon. And in some ways I felt like maybe Johnny was my Dark Side of the Moon, but I think I still have a lot left to say, you know. And if I get through the sadness, and I'm not looking for sympathy, but like, you know what I mean? Like if I get through all that and come out the other side and make another album that has, you know, some upbeat shit, then it'll be interesting to see what that sounds like, you know. It's like King Gizzard can make like a microtonal album and then make a metal album and then make, you know, like a jam band record, and you go to their concerts and it's like a Fish concert with a mosh pit. Like, it's just, you know, like that's the world. Yeah, that's the world we live in. It's just weird. Like things can coexist that we didn't used to think could. So like I do want to explore that, but at the same time, like, you know, like Jason Ludwig, like I have to do this. Like I have to, and it's going to help me personally to kind of get it out of my system. But it's also like really rewarding, in the same way that it's rewarding for somebody to like crochet a blanket or paint a picture or, get their golf swing just right, I guess. I don't know. Does that
Right.
feel the same? I don't
Yeah, no, totally.
know.
It's anything that requires practice and requires an emotional intent, and anything you put time into finish, like to expressing yourself through, right? And like I think it can be making pancakes, it can be whatever it is. Like you started with all these ingredients, you mashed it, whatever, and it came out with your emotional intent. And at the end, yes, I so like, and I relate to like the idea of like kind of like the processing of grief and whatever through, I shouldn't say whatever, the processing of grief and like the processing of like putting that into something, some type of outlet. I think I think it's a healthy way to do it, and like the results are always interesting what they yield, and like ultimately how you come out of the end of it, it's a whole nother thing. But there's this whole other appreciation, and part of like the grief bringing some type of life, because like
Mhm.
with Sea Level, we've been working on this crazy concept record, and like I mentioned, my mom passed and my grandma passed and Cody's grandparents passed, and it's just been kind of like it's a grief record in that sense, and it's a concept piece, and like but it's also been like this record we worked with a lot of features on, and it doesn't necessarily ring the bell on some of these features of being like a grief record, and like some of the people we worked with interpreted some of the things differently, which was really cool to kind of hear. But like I don't know. I feel better have basically, like, we're pretty much done with this record. I got in a couple weeks. I got a horn section. I got a track, and then we're done. But like it's the process of being through it after it. It's been like, I don't know. It like I kind of said before, it brings this whole like other type of life and like beauty to it, at least on the personal end for myself. And like
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to do grief, but I don't think there is a right way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it just speaks to that like therapeutic quality of like making art, which is, I think, underestimated probably by listeners, and I think it's what makes like bullshit pop music and stuff feel so sterile,
Yeah.
you know, because it's all about like desire or just like I don't know, stuff that like, yeah, those are universal concepts, but like there's no like emotion behind like the music itself in a way. I mean, maybe there is for the people who actually wrote the songs, because it wasn't like whoever
Yeah, it's not.
is singing.
Yeah,
But like,
it's
I
the
mean,
Nashville
maybe in some
Songwriter
cases,
Union.
right? Exactly. But like I really like Jacob Collier.
Yeah.
And I went to see him, and yeah, it was a couple years ago now. I was really moved by the concert, and it's just a beautiful experience. The person I was with had the opposite experience. She thought it was super weird. She didn't like it, and okay, fair enough. But I went online and I remember like reading about Jacob Collier, and a lot of the critique was that he was like too young and inexperienced to have enough emotion to put behind the music. And so really it just read as like virtuosic and not emotional. And I just didn't see it that way. But I mean, it's just interesting because I'm sure that, a man of his age, whatever his like personal life is like, that he has enough experiences, even if they aren't the same as, that guy on the internet critiquing him, to be able to like put some emotion behind that music. And like, I don't know, it just felt judgy, I guess. But I'm sure it was therapeutic for Jacob to like make that music, just as it's therapeutic for me to make the music that I make, and for you to make the music that you make, and so on. It kind of like brings up that idea of like, what is art, like when you like wasn't there some study where they took like the art of like a kindergartner and like, presented as though it was like, great, like canonical visual art to some art critic who praised it as being like groundbreaking or something, and it was just, you know, some kid with finger paints or something. Like, I don't know if that really happened or if that's an urban legend, but like, you know, you could imagine a world in which that would happen. Um, so I don't know. I guess the sort of like, to boil that all down, it's just art is subjective, you know, for the consumer, but for the person that makes it, there's a lot more to it, you know.
Yeah, no, like, and like, I think part of what resonates with anyone who consumes it, right, is the idea that it's coming from some type of insight, some type of struggle, some type of like, yeah, I mean, because, you know, if you kind of dive into a lot of kind of religious, like, kind of philosophies, there's this struggle in mind. And like, so you know, I mean, I think there is like this thing that, that it's coming from something which makes it resonate. And like, I mean, and that can go any sort of ways here, and like, especially with the whole idea of like AI and shenanigans. But I think when it comes down to it, what's really going to move people, and it still is moving people, like is the artists that really have kind of put themselves out there, and they're like, they're known for like, Nirvana, you know what I mean? Kurt Cobain's like this dude who's just all out there, and like some of the most insane, noisy, what is happening, but at the same time you're like, but it's still sick because it's coming from this guy who, like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. There's so much of a narrative that comes from the person that makes the art what it is. You know, like,
Yeah.
why does anyone have a favorite Beatle? You know, they're all in the
Right.
same band, but like, it's the personality, and like, yeah, like, and I definitely think so. To some degree, I think it is underappreciated, and to some degree, I think it's like the exact thing that gets heard. Like in the pop sense of stuff, no one's gonna like appreciate whatever, because they can be singing anything, and they be singing 6-7. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's gonna be whatever. But like when it comes to like music that has like a narrative, a story, anything to it, like, I think the audience will pick up on that. And I definitely think they will with this and with the next work you're going to do. Like, and I think this is a good point where we can put a pin in it until our next conversation, because I'm excited to hear, like, I mean, I'm just happy you're making music, man. Like, what you're going through is hard as fuck, and like, the one thing that makes I like it when my friends are doing well, and they have yet to cease and have yet to settle for anything. So I'm very inspired that you're out here kicking ass.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you doing your thing too. Like I said at the beginning, like, you know, what you're doing is integral to a scene, you know. And I mean, like, just like we said, like, the marketing, you know, landscape for music has changed so much. You know, it's like, it's still, this is a thing people want to hear. So I appreciate the platform for sure. And I mean, I can plug the record, I guess, a little bit while we're at it.
Well, I think this would be the point. When does it come out? Where can we get it? What's the vinyl color?
Yeah, I don't know what when you're gonna have this up, but like, we're recording on October 26th, and it comes out Tuesday the 28th, so it'll be out then for people to check out on all the streaming, you know, stuff. And like, as of right now, people can actually listen to the track "Flood," which we talked about, on Bandcamp. And then that's where all the like actual liner notes are, which I always put them there because there's not a good place to put liner notes anymore, you know?
True.
And I don't do physical releases. I mean, people have told me to release like vinyl, but I'll have to be convinced, I guess, to spend the money.
Totally. I get it. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I mean, like I said, it really, it was a labor of love in so many ways, and therapeutic in so many ways. And I'm glad to be getting something out, because it has been 5 years, which I think is unacceptable. But like, to have, like, you know, now sort of a clean slate to be able to go in and start writing new stuff, which usually like takes me a lot longer after a release. but I'm already writing stuff. So that's really encouraging, and I'm excited to keep on trucking and get this thing out there and hear what people have to say about it. And yeah, I appreciate the chance to come on and talk about it for sure.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out, man. We'll put a pin in it here, and we'll talk when that next release comes out, hopefully sooner than 5 years. But if it takes that long, it takes that long. All right.
Right, yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks for chatting with me.
Of course, dude. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Yo, Spike Spiegel here. You just listened to Zig at the Gig podcast. Keep riding the bebop. See you, Space Cowboy. Bang.